بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين خاتم النبيين وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. وبعد. Alhamdulillah, tonight we did Surah An-Nisa. This surah contains many injunctions and rulings pertaining to marriage. Surah Nisa, of course, means woman. The surah of woman, many ayats pertaining to nikah are mentioned. अंधेरा में क्यों रख रहे हैं? ये वाले अंकल. Allahumma hadi. So, Jazakallah. So this surah contains many ayats pertaining to nikah. I wanted to mention something very, very important. As I said, just announced, and if you notice, I said it will be brief and important khatira. Last night, after the tafsir ended, late at night when no one was here, I do not want to by any means identify the brother. One person from a long distance, he traveled and he came. And he shared a very sad story with me. And I told him that, inshallah, I take this upon myself that whenever opportunity I have, correct opportunity, I will discuss this with the people and educate people regarding this, so they do not fall into the same situation that you fell into. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for that brother, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us and guide us. The fact of the matter is, in general, there is so much ignorance about the deen, ahkam of the deen, rulings of the deen. But one area where there is massive ignorance, even among the so-called, what we call deendar or religious people, is the rulings pertaining to divorce. And I'm not going to necessarily blame anyone. Perhaps it is my fault, our fault as imams, that when is the last time we talk about the rulings of divorce? Even though this is a part of our deen, it's in the Quran. We covered these ayat, we recite them in Taraweeh. We have a monthly seminar here at Dar es Salaam. One time, I personally did the monthly seminar on the rulings pertaining to divorce, amicable separation in Islam, what are the ahkam of talaq. It was perhaps the least attended seminar. People are not interested. Our Ansar and our volunteers said, are you going to do a seminar on divorce? Who would want to come to such a topic? Because this is the last thing on our mind. No one ever imagines they're going to need this knowledge or is interested in learning. We perform nikahs all the time. When we perform the nikah, we talk about good things. We talk about how to lead a successful life, blissful marriage, successful marriage. The last thing you talk about, even myself when I perform nikahs all the time, is I'm never going to be discussing the rulings of divorce, right? In balagha, we learn something, أن يكون الكلام بمقتضى الحال, that when you speak, that your statements should be in accordance to the time, the place, and the addressees, the public who you're addressing. So it's a happy occasion, it's an occasion of marriage. You don't want to talk about divorce. That's the last thing you want to hear. So we don't talk about it then. We don't talk about it in the Jummah khutbah because people are coming in late. That is the planned time for the afternoon nap, to sleep through the khutbah. Eat and, one of the students, he may be sitting here, in the after Zohar class, in my class, he was falling, catching a nap. So I told him, "Oh, why are you sleeping in my class? Wake up, stand up." So he said, "This is my rest and digest time." So after the lunch, we come in the Jummah khutbah and we plan it, 20 minutes I'll have a nap. We know this is a condition of Ummah. We can see everyone napping all the time, but we don't say anything, we respect everyone. So people are sleeping. You cannot talk about ahkam of talaq, Jummah khutbah. People are coming in late to begin with. They'll hear half of the story or quarter of the story, and then, neem mullah khatra iman, neem hakim khatra jan. If you're a half-baked doctor, it's a danger for your life, and a half-baked scholar, or a person who has half of the knowledge, it's a danger for one's iman. This happens all the time. Any sensitive topic that I ever addressed in a Jummah khutbah, it always backfired. People misunderstand. They come and hear half of it. One time back when Barack Obama was running for the first time, not the second time, first time, in the beginning, people were very excited. They said, oh, his middle name is Hussein. And maybe he'll be better because he's the son of a murtad. I don't know how that logic works. But they were so excited about it. So I gave a whole khutbah on the fiqh of voting and what our niyyah should be when we vote, everything. After the khutbah, I went into the office, somebody called me and said, I just heard you gave a whole khutbah that voting is haram. I said, that's the last thing I said. I actually gave the whole niyyah, what should it be, and this is how it's an obligation. All right, subhanAllah. So people misunderstand. So we cannot talk about fiqh of talaq in Jummah khutbah. We had a monthly seminar. In the Alim program, we cannot expect the whole ummah to join the 7-year seminary and study Quduri and Hidayah, all the rulings as well. So we have in the weekend academy, which is on Saturdays and Sundays, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. 10 to 11 is 1 hour, 11 to 12 is the second class, 12 to 1 is third class. We did, alhamdulillah, had the opportunity to teach a 16-week fiqh of marriage and divorce. Hazrat was there, right? There's some top students from that class sitting here, always getting acing the test. So we did this fiqh of marriage and divorce. This was an eye-opener for those who attended. The problem is, it's like, you are granted a pilot license to drive and pilot and fly a very expensive multi-million-dollar fighter jet. And you're flying it and you think everything is fine. And then one day you look at a button and you don't know what the button is and you press it. And what happens? You're ejected from the cockpit. You're thrown out from the cockpit. And if you have a parachute, you might land safely, otherwise you will die. You lose that plane. The plane is gone, you're away from that plane, you're cut off from that plane. And you'll say, oh, how come no one told me? How come no one told me? So aside from the jokes, the reality is this is a very, very serious matter. And this is perhaps the hardest job of any mufti when he has to break the news to someone that their marriage is irrevocably ended. Whether they are happy with the outcome or not. In these cases, when they're not happy, if they're happy, it's not difficult to say it. If they're not happy and they don't want the marriage to be ended, and you have to tell them that your marriage is ended because of what you just did. This is very, very sad. And in this particular incident that happened just now, this brother was so affected. He was a good religious brother. He went Hajj with us. But he broke down so much and he was crying and sobbing. He fell down, he collapsed. I had to pick him up. And he said that, how come you did not teach me us? How come you never told us what the rulings of divorce are? And how come we were not educated? My marriage was arranged and all of this, parents did this and arranged my marriage, but they never taught us this. And I felt so bad, and I told myself that, when is the last time I talked about ahkam of talaq here, even at Dar es Salaam? We did a monthly seminar, we do, as I said, the weekend academy, but we never really taught the people. Now, the lesson for tonight, if you can go on the website and our Dar es Salaam under the past programs, there is a monthly seminar we did. It's about 1.5 hours. It's a PowerPoint presentation. The voice and the audio, we can learn all the rulings. I'm not going to talk about talaq raj'i and talaq ba'ina, mukhaffafa and mughalladha and alfaz kinaya, alfaz sarih and idda and raja and ila and zihar. If you don't know these terms, that means that's how much we need to learn, all of these things. But only one masala, only one ruling from the entire rulings in all the chapter of talaq that I want to discuss is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, "Thalathun jidduhunna jiddun wa hazluhunna jiddun." 3 matters are such that if a man he utters these words intending the results with full intention, they will be effective. And if he utters these words without intending the result, it will also be effective, even if he does not have the niyyah. This is the key thing. Even if he does not have the niyyah, it will still be effective. An-nikahu wa-talaqu wal-'itaqu. And one hadith is an-nikahu wa-talaqu wal-raj'a. Is nikah, talaq, and itaq. What does that mean? Nikah is marriage, talaq is divorce, Itaq is to free a slave. And freeing a slave doesn't really count anymore. It doesn't exist. Slavery doesn't exist. But if a man told his slave, you're free for the sake of Allah, and he says, oh, psych, I was just joking, doesn't to date. After he said you're free, he becomes free, whether you intended the result or not. Same thing with marriage. If a man and a woman in the presence of witnesses, the man says that I take you as my wife, and she says I accept you as my husband, and there are two witnesses there, if they intended it or did not intend it, if they were joking or otherwise, it will be effective, and he will have to divorce her for her to marry someone else. The nikah will be valid. And the third one, and the most important, the topic of discussion is talaq. Talaq will be valid, whether a person intends it or not. Whether the man intends it or not, it will be valid. The thing is, the talaq comes into existence when the husband, he utters the words of divorce in any language. If he says, I divorce you, or I have given you talaq, or talaqtuki, or mene tumhe talaq diya, any of these words he utters, anti taliq, talaqtuki, Arabic, English, Urdu, any language, the talaq will come into existence. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that, if the deen said that it's based on your intention, like other things, like this person yesterday was arguing, he said, if I perform 2 rakat out of show, because my father said, go pray 2 rakat, and not for the sake of Allah, I don't have the intention, will it count? I said, it will not count. So he said, why does my talaq count? The reason is that this is one matter which is an exception to the rule. Whether you have the intention or you don't have the intention, it's effective. If it was based on intention, it would become difficult, because if a man says, I give you talaq, so now the wife is preparing that she's an ex-wife and she's going to go on in her life. Then he says, no, I didn't intend it. Then she say, oh, I have to come back. Or did he intend it or did he not intend it? What's going on? It's a confusion. So to remove all the confusion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that your intention has no bearing on the matter. These words are not supposed to be uttered in any condition, unless you're actually going for the divorce. Because if you say these words, it's going to be effective. And just to lighten it for people and make it easier for people to understand, is that there are another type of words which are ambiguous words, alfadul kinaya. And when a person uses ambiguous words, guess what? The niyyah does play a role. And an example of an ambiguous word is if a man tells to his wife, go to your parents' home. Ilhaqi bi ahliki. Go to your parents' home. Or he says, get out of my life. So these are ambiguous words. It could mean go to your parents' home with the kids and enjoy vacation. Or it could mean go to your parents' home forever and you're out of my life. You're out of my home forever. It could mean both. So you will ask him, what is your intention? If he says, my intention is just to have a vacation, relax, there will be no talaq. And if he says, my intention was to give divorce, then there will be a talaq. It will be a talaqul bayan. It will be a particular type of divorce. Because these words have both meanings. Now I want all of you to understand, the word talaq in the Arabic language, in the dictionary, does it have multiple meanings? No, it only has one meaning. The word divorce, does it have multiple meanings? It only has one meaning. You can't say, I give you talaq and say I meant something else. Who are you trying to fool? If you say talaq, you say the word talaq, it will actually be talaq. And then, so this is one thing. We know now that if a husband says to his wife, I give you talaq in the present tense, or I have given you talaq in the past tense, the talaq will be effective. If he says it in the future tense, I will give you a talaq. I'm not giving you ideas to say this, but if a person says to his wife, I will give you talaq, nothing will occur. Why? Because this is a promise for a future action. Now, I will give you, when? After 5 years, after tomorrow, after 1 hour, after 1 minute, or after 100 years? When? It's a promise for a future action. He may fulfill the promise, he may not fulfill it. So if he says, I will give you talaq, main aapko talaq dunga, this is not an honorable, noble thing for a man to say to his wife, to threaten her, I will give you talaq. But in the heat of argument, if he said that, I will give you talaq, sa'utalliquki bisighatil mustaqbil, with the future tense, the talaq will not occur. It's with the present tense or past tense. So everyone understand that? Everyone got it? Okay. And the second thing is, this whole big confusion in the ummah. I believe perhaps not less than 99% of the ummah thinks, how many talaqs does a person have to give to divorce his wife? Everyone is saying 3. Everyone is wrong. This exactly what I'm saying. 99% of the ummah is wrong. Everyone thinks you have to give 3 talaq. SubhanAllah, we are completely failing the system that Allah has made. First of all, marriage, is the cornerstone of society. I'm not going to give the whole normal talk about being nice to your wives and all of that. I'm talking about the technical fiqh tonight. But of course, we know, just to remind ourselves, that marriage is important, is the cornerstone of society. And marriage needs to be maintained, and our deen is a very practical deen. So our deen teaches us keep the marriage intact as far as possible. We covered all those ayat today. وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ شِقَاقَ بَيْنِهِمَا فَبَعَثُوا, in my section, in the first 10 rakat, فَبَعَثُوا حَكَمًا مِّنْ أَهْلِهِ وَحَكَمًا مِّنْ أَهْلِهَا. There are many stages. If they are fighting, then bring حَكَمًا مِّنْ أَهْلِهِ, one responsible person from the husband's family, حَكَمًا مِّنْ أَهْلِهَا, a responsible person from the woman's family. Let them negotiate, reconciliation, all of those. But our deen understands that if they're fighting, and they just do not get along, then to continue this relationship and say that just the fact that you got married once, you have to remain married forever, is unreasonable. So therefore, as the last resort, the deen does permit divorce. أَبْغَضُ الْمَبَاحَات, it is the most disliked of that which is permissible. So in the original Catholic faith, there is no divorce in the Roman Catholic religion. There is no divorce. Once you're married forever. And in the Jewish faith, it was super easy to get divorced. And our deen is in the middle. The example is like, you have a little pain in your back, you go to the doctor, he's not going to say, okay, I'm going to put you under general anesthesia and operate on your spine because I love to make money. Hopefully he won't do that. He's going to say therapy, he's going to say give medication, he's going to provide all these different steps. And finally, as a last resort, you go under the knife. Likewise, the last resort is, if the situation gets out of hand, then the Islam teaches us it would have been better if you could have been united as family, but if you're fighting, it's worse for the kids. If you have an amicable separation and lead your own lives, actually, it's a better option for the kids, if the parents are happy separately, rather than continually fighting. So when the man decides that that's it, I cannot live with this woman anymore, ever, how many talaq he's supposed to give? 1 talaq. He's supposed to give 1 talaq. Only 1 talaq. This is the woman he never wants to live with, remember. He never ever wants to see her face. In this worst case scenario, he's supposed to only give 1 talaq when she is in a state of purity, not when she's in hayd. And after this last state of purity, he never had physical relations with her to ensure that she is not pregnant. Meaning after her last period, he did not have physical relations with her. So she is not going to be pregnant. And he gives 1 talaq. After that, the Sharia gives, subhanAllah, look at the beauty of the Sharia, a 3-month waiting, cooling down period. This is called the iddah. Salasata quru. 3 months. 3 monthly cycles. In this period, he can cool down and think about it. If the woman wants to maintain the marriage, and you know where the woman is going to be staying? Where is she going to be staying? In his house. He has to provide for her. تَتَزَيَّن لَهَا. She can beautify herself for her husband if she wants to maintain the marriage, or not beautify if she doesn't want to maintain it. So she can, and then the husband has an opportunity to take his wife back. He can make raja. He can say, all he has to say is verbally, I have taken you back, raja'tuki. I have taken you back in my nikah, and then she'll become the wife. In fact, this can be done unilaterally, only on his side, without the wife's consent as well. If he takes her back, she will be his wife, but he will only have 2 talaq to his credit. There are 2 ways he takes her back. One is within the iddah he takes her back, or after the iddah expires, then can he marry her? Yes, he can marry her, but now he cannot just do raja one way, unilaterally saying, I take you back. Now she's a free woman. She can marry anyone else. Or if she wants to, she can marry the first husband. Simple. You don't have to have a big party, walima, and invite everyone and tell everyone, I gave my wife 1 talaq, now we're remarrying. This happens all the time in Dar es Salaam. People come into the office, they walk in, the students, the people, musalli, you don't know what's going on. They come into the office and we perform a nikah. Sometimes they don't bring witnesses. I come into the classes, I pick up 2 students as witnesses. They say, come with me. We're in trouble? No, just come. Why are you calling us principal? Just come. Right? Then we come into the office and say, sit down, you're going to be a witness, we're going to do a simple nikah. They don't know who gave 1 talaq, 2 talaq, they are witnesses, we perform a nikah. So they're back together. Then they're living their life. Then guess what? They start fighting. He gives a 2nd talaq. The whole procedure again. He has an opportunity to cool down. He can take her back in the iddah. Or after the iddah expires, he can remarry. They're married again. Then they're living together, then what happens? They fight. He gives a 3rd talaq. فَإِن طَلَّقَهَا الطَّلَاقُ مَرَّتَانِ 2 talaqs, then فَإِن طَلَّقَهَا فَلَا تَحِلُّ لَهُ مِن بَعْدُ. After the 3rd talaq, they are now irrevocably divorced. Haram. They can never get remarried. They're not supposed to get married. They're supposed to lead their own life. Because Allah is telling us, the Sharia is telling us, guess what? You had 1 chance, you blew it. You had a 2nd chance, you blew it. You had a 3rd chance, you blew it. Like strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out now. Like from baseball. But you play cricket. Anyway, so then the thing is, after the 3rd strike, you are khalas, it's over. You cannot get married. If life goes on, now the people say, astaghfirullah, this is illogical. Why in the deen there's such an illogical thing as halala? That the condition for remarriage is halala. Do you know what is halala? In BBC they had an article and they were mocking the deen in England, and this is something absolutely wrong, that there are halala services. People are providing halala services. What is and this is haram. This is absolutely wrong. The bottom line is the Sharia is wrong to say this is a condition for remarriage. The Sharia says don't get married. Don't get married. You had 1 chance, you had 2 chances, you had 3 chances, you blew it. Now don't get married. I'm concluding with this masala. I know it's kind of late. Today we only did 1 juz, not 1 1/4. So we ended earlier. So we'll look at this. The Sharia says don't get married. If life goes on and she ends up, the woman gets remarried. And after she gets remarried to another man, then what happens? That 2nd husband actually consummates the marriage. You know what consummates the marriage means? He physically has relations with her. Then life goes on and he ends up divorcing her. He didn't like her either. Then he divorces her. After this, if the first husband, if he thinks to himself, I want to marry that woman again, why would he do that? He gave her talaq once, he gave her talaq twice, he gave her talaq thrice. Then she married another man. Then he actually slept with her. Why would he want to marry her? There's no reason he would want to marry her. Doesn't he have ghairah? Doesn't he have self-honor of marrying a woman that has slept with another man? The only reason he would perhaps want to marry her, if there has been some amazing transformation or metamorphosis in that woman, she completely changed her personality, or he completely changed his personality. That's the only reason he would ever want to marry a woman that he divorced 3 times and another man slept with her and divorced her. So in this circumstance, the Sharia says that, okay, it is permissible for him to marry her. It is permissible for him to marry her after she had been with another man and that other man had actually consummated the marriage and divorced her. Then it is permissible for him, if he wants to marry her, to marry her. He doesn't have to marry her, but it's permissible. If he marries her, how many talaq does he have to his credit now? That resets the clock back to 3. If he ends up having fights, may Allah forbid, it will be 1st talaq, then 2nd, then 3rd. So this is called halala. فَلَا تَحِلُّ لَهُ مِن بَعْدُ حَتَّى تَنْكِحَ زَوْجًا غَيْرَهُ. It's in the Quran. This is the actual understanding. This was the way this deen gave us. But like I asked you in the beginning, how many talaqs your person supposed to give? You all said 3. You know what happens? So first of all, people are in anger, and they just say, I give you talaq, I give you talaq, I give you talaq. Maine tumhe talaq diya, talaq diya, talaq diya. The man says that. What is he doing? He is using all the 3 talaqs at one time. Talaqtuki, talaqtuki, talaqtuki. Anti taliq, taliq, taliq. He says it 3 times. Or anti taliqun salasan. I give you 3 talaq. So there was a system in place. You were supposed to have the iddah to cool down, then you're supposed to have a 2nd chance, you're supposed to have a 3rd chance. Who blew all the chances? You blew all the chances. Why you blew all the chances? Because you never knew. You thought you're supposed to give 3. Or you thought that if I'm in anger, it doesn't count. Who gives his talaq to his woman, his wife in happiness, in love? Everyone's going to give it in anger. So they say, no, I was angry. Of course you were angry. Doesn't mean it's not going to be effective. It's going to be effective. So when you give, so this is the case that happened. On the women who are listening, if you're having fights, if you're having a fight with a husband, and fights are normal, everyone has fights, don't, for the sake of Allah, for the sake of your children, say, give me talaq now, give it to me now, give it to me now. This is what happened to this brother. This woman was saying, give me talaq, give me talaq, give me talaq, 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 give it to me, give it to me. So then the man just said, okay, fine. You're racking my brains. I'll give you talaq, talaq, talaq. And he's like, now he's crying, because my wife is married to me for so many years. I love her and this and that. And I have children. And Allahu Akbar. And he's crying. He's saying that, he's thinking, okay, is there, after he left, then he called me a little while. He's on the way back, he's saying, how does the halala work? I said, no, don't go that route. He said, if a person marries one day and he sleeps with my wife, and then I'm ready to do that too. See, is she halal for me after halala? If a man marries my wife and then he divorces, so this is another technical issue. It's haram to get married with this intention and to sleep with a woman and divorce her, just like the people were doing in England, and they had those halala services that BBC was mocking us. So it's haram to do that. But technically, after the haram act was done, is the woman halal for the first husband? Yes. What's an example of that? Haram, but yes. Example is, I steal a knife. Sikeen al-maqsoob, and I slaughter an animal. Is stealing the knife haram? Yes. But is the slaughtered animal halal to you? Slaughtered animal is halal. Zabiya. I'm a Muslim. La ilaha illallah. Musliman ho gaye. Aapko shak ho raha. So if I slaughter an animal with a stolen knife, I have done a haram act. I stole someone's property. I shouldn't have stolen someone's knife, and I slaughtered it. But the animal is halal, is zabiha, right? So likewise, if a person intentionally does this whole halala business, the act is haram. It's a sin. It's a kabira, and then the marriage with the first wife will become halal, permissible. So I told him, this is absolutely wrong thing to do. Don't do this. He's saying, there's a door of istighfar. I kept on telling him, for the sake of Allah, fear Allah, don't do this. Then at the end I said, it's your life. You can do what you want to do. My responsibility is to advise you what's right and wrong. If you're insisting on this. No, he just kept on insisting, tell me technically, would it be permissible for me to marry her after the halala if I arrange it? Does the guy have to be a Muslim or non-Muslim, he's asking me. I said the halala has to be with a Muslim. Oh, okay. Now he's going to look for someone. But why all this? Because unaware, jahala, about the ahkam of talaq. There are many rulings. I only cover two things. First I covered with you is whether you intended or not, it's effective. Second thing I covered with you is not to give 3 at one time. If a person gives 1 talaq, the iddah passes, he stays away from her, and the iddah passes, that's it. She's free, she can marry anyone else. And he can lead his life and she can lead her. Keep the window open. If somebody says, I absolutely, maybe may Allah protect, his wife committed adultery, cheated on him. He doesn't want to, still give 1 talaq. Still give 1 talaq. Don't give 3. Give 1 talaq, and after the iddah passes, she will go her own way. She can marry someone else, you can marry someone else. You don't have to give 3. There is no reason to ever give 3. Just give 1, let the iddah pass. And she'll be separated from the nikah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the understanding of the deen and grant us opportunity to learn the deen and protect us from making mistakes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from making mistakes. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.